So for all the mums and dads out there that have a new baby and you're struggling perhaps with a bit of a colic baby or a very spewy baby, we personally had a baby that just didn't want to burp. So we tried lots of different bottles and lots of different strategies to try and make that work. We eventually came across Pigeon Bottles, and while I don't think there's any miracle products out there, we found that Pigeon did work the best for us. And I just thought I'd share with you a few tips and pieces that I picked up along on our journey that I think other mums and dads might find really helpful as well. So the first thing you'll find is you're able to buy the narrower bottles and you're able to buy the wider neck bottles. The difference is we found that apparently, according to the research, the wider neck bottles are meant to be a closer replica of a breast. So we tried both, but yeah, we found probably a little bit more luck with the wider bottles. The other thing that you'll come across is when you're in the shops, some will have like a yellow lid and some have the white lid. The difference is you'll notice on the box here, for the yellow one it'll say PPSU, which has then got heat resistance of 180, whereas the white ones will just have, I think it's PP on it, and they're not as resistant. The white ones therefore are a bit cheaper, the yellow ones are a little bit more expensive. We found, however, it is worth the extra money. The yellow ones have lasted longer for us, so it's up to you and your budget, and you can make that choice then for yourself. In terms of, to start off with, you just need a little bottle. You don't need to get the bigger ones. People sometimes say, oh, I'll get the bigger one, and in the long term that will then save money. But the problem is with that, sometimes the increments or the measurements here at the front are quite hard to then put like a smaller amount of milk in there and be able to read it accurately. So that would be my only advice there. I would stick with the smaller one to begin with, and then as your baby gets older and you need to transition to a larger bottle, by then you're probably due for a new bottle then anyway. In terms of the teat and which teat to get, it can get a little bit confusing. So if you look at the different letters that are on the back of the box, it explains it pretty simply. If you've got a preemie baby, you probably will need a double S, which is what we needed. And then transitioning, you then go up to S, M, L, and double L. Triple L is a new size that I believe they've just added, and it's a little bit tricky to find. If you are finding it tricky to find the right teat that you need, I think you can access most of the time on the actual Pigeon website. So that might be your best luck if you're trying to find a particular teat. And you will find naturally that sometimes you won't find just the teat by itself. You have to buy it with the bottle that it comes with if you're going up to the next size. Now, how does it work? I'll do a little demonstration for you, but the idea is that when you've got, you can see a little hole there, it's a valve. So when you fill it up with the milk, I'll do a demonstration with the water. So you fill it up to what's required for your baby. Rookie mistake that we didn't realise, when you're actually tightening the lid, don't put it on as tight as you can. What you need to do is obviously seal it so that it doesn't leak, but you should be able to then open it still with one hand. Like that's how loose it should be, so don't do it overly tight. And then once you've got that, you then take your two fingers on either side of the valve, and if you squeeze it and push it down, you should be able to hear a little bit of air escaping from that valve, and that's, don't ask me the scientific explanation, but there's some sort of then equalization between the pressure of what's inside the bottle and the air outside. So it's meant to then slow down the flow of the milk coming out of the teat, and that's then I think then the main idea behind the Pigeon bottles. When you are putting the teat in the lid, just be aware that it is much easier, and I'm hoping then you might look after it better if you put the teat in the top of the lid as opposed to trying to squeeze it up from underneath. So if you pop it in on the top, it's going to be much easier to do that way as opposed to trying to squeeze it up from underneath, because then you have to try and pop it through and it gets a little bit difficult. So definitely from the top is the best way to put these teats in. My own personal tips for you, please think about it if you're using formula, whether you're just shaking the formula vigorously. They do suggest stirring it in, because then you're going to have then less air bubbles. That might help for you. So just be gentle in terms of stirring it when you do put the milk in, as opposed to shaking it vigorously like that. You can maybe look up some YouTube videos about paste feeding. You might find that helps you, which is where instead of trying to put the milk in like that into the baby, you sort of bring it in on an angle like that. And the other thing is just be aware that Pigeon are really great support. So if you are having any issues with the bottles that you've bought and they don't seem to be working for you, or maybe there's some sort of contraption that you just don't quite understand why it's doing that, give them a call. They've always been really supportive for us, and we've really liked using the Pigeon bottles. We're about to go again with baby number 2, and we'll certainly be using Pigeon again. Thank you. Hope this helps.